Okay, welcome. Today we are going to be doing lesson 2 in chapter 8. You can find that on page 403 of your textbook. So please open up your workbooks to page 403 and I will get started with this. What we're doing today is complementary and supplementary angles. Maybe it's new, maybe it's a review. I'm not really sure what you remember from last year, but make sure you're on page 403 and follow along. Okay, first thing we're going to go through here would be a little bit of a word problem, talking about complementary and supplementary angles. Have you ever driven over a bridge where a sign stated a weight limit? You wonder how the weight limit was decided. When engineers construct bridges, they need to take into account the load or weights that will travel across the bridge. Differences in angle measures that are used in the bridge's design or construction can change the load that a bridge can support. Have you ever played that game where you have to build a bridge? You make those little triangles within here that take the support and they put it from 1 point to 2 points. That's what we're kind of talking about here. But let's get into the actual problem. So locate a pair of angles in the truss bridge that form a right angle. What is the sum of the measures of the two angles and how do you know? So if we look on here, we can see that here would be a right angle right there. A right angle, again, means that it would be 90 degrees. Looks like here would be a right angle right there, also 90 degrees. Okay, right here, 90 degrees, right there. So you have all of these that are right angles within there. Locate a pair of angles in the truss bridge that form a straight angle. Now, a straight angle. A straight angle is 180 degrees. So that would be where you end up making 90 degrees or we end up making 180 degrees. So now what we're going to be looking at today is all about 90 degrees or 180 degrees. So let's look at some and see if we can find a problem with that. First one is the standards. I'll just skip over your standards and we'll get into a problem here. Okay, so we're going to talk about angles. Angles ABD and CBD are called complementary angles. So we will have some vocab that's going to go along with our book today. So we're looking at the first one. I'm not sure what you remember from last year, but when you say 3 letters, I could abbreviate this. Instead of saying the word angle, I could show you with a sign. That means angle. It's not the same as a less than symbol. The less than is having this angle on both top and bottom. When you go down, and this is basically horizontal to the ground, parallel to the ground right there, this means angle. So I can put angle A, B, D. So basically all we have to do is trace that so we'll know what angle we're talking about. So I'm talking about A that goes down to B that goes over to D. So I'm talking about this angle, and you'll notice that B is right in the middle. That kind of tells you that's the order of going. Now, I could also have said DBA, that's the same thing. As long as that B is in the middle of these two, I could call either one. So we look at that one, and then we're going to look at the other one that they told us, which happens to be, I'm going to use purple here. They have CBD. So then angle CBD. Let's look at that angle. So I'm going to go from C to B to D. Now, what they said is these two angles are complementary. So we need to know the definition of that word. Now, complementary means two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So right now, I don't know how much this angle is right here. I don't know how much this angle is. But together, these two form a right angle or 90 degrees. I know that because they told me that they are complementary. Just a little bit of vocab right there. And if I click on here, it says show angle ABC. We have right there. We have angle ABC. So if we look, these two are the ones that form a right angle, also 90 degrees. That means these two complementary. They add up to 90 degrees together. Now, if we want to see the measurements, they could put it in there that if they say ABD is 58, so that means this would be 58 degrees. and they're going to tell me that this one is 32. So I could also prove it by the math saying that 58 plus 32 is equal to 90. Just means they're complementary. One of our vocab words today, complementary. Now this one, if we look at this one says that we're going to have line AB intersect ray CD at point C. It just means that we're going to have this line AB. Goes through right there, line AB. Now we're going to have this ray. Now a ray is a one-directional line, so it means it's going to start at C and go through D. Just means it's going one direction. Okay. Now if we look at these two, they don't want us to make a conjecture. Just make an observation, something we can state about these two angles. So now here's that little angle symbol I was telling you about. Angle ACD. So let's look at that angle. So let me get rid of my software here. Let's use red to start with. I'm going to do this angle in red. Angle ACD. So if I look at have angle A, then C, then D. So we're looking at this angle right there. And we're going to look at this one. I'll do this one in purple. Now we're doing angle BCD. So I'm going to go BCD. So I'm talking about this angle now. What do you notice about these two angles combined? What do you notice about these two? If you look here and there, notice this is a straight line. How many degrees are in this straight line? That would be 180 degrees in a straight line. So now these two angles, if I were to add them up, this plus this, they would equal 180. Now, this is called supplementary, okay? They're called supplementary. So in the previous page, when we had two different angles that add up to 90, that was called complementary. Now we're going to have two angles that add up to each other. They're called supplementary. Now, those are the two that we need to remember for today, the supplementary and the complementary. Now, the best way to remember it in my mind, if you have a complementary, just using the letter C for it, we want to remember that this is two angles or more that add up to 90 degrees. Then we have our supplementary. Those are two angles or more that add up to 180 degrees. Now, how are you going to remember which one is which? This is the way that I like to teach it. Alphabetically, C comes in the alphabet first, ABC. 90 comes first when counting from 0 up. So complementary comes first, 90 comes first. The S would come later in the alphabet, and so would 180. So this is the best way I've found to keep them straight every time. Complementary comes first with the C, so does 90. Supplementary comes later, then the 180. So when you're trying to remember which one is complementary, C comes before S is the 90 degrees. That's usually the best way to try to remember which one's which, because they're not going to tell you. They're just going to end up saying that these two are complementary, and you're going to have to remember which one that is. So we're going to go through and look at a question here. Okay. Two angles are complementary if their sum measures up to 190. Now again, remember, sum is the definition for adding things up. You should know that from the last couple chapters. Select each button to learn about complementary angles. Okay, so we're going to say these two angles are complementary. Now, they don't have to tell us in words. They can show us with a picture. So if we look at this picture right here, this picture shows you one important piece of information. This purplish line in here that shows that is telling you, hey, this angle is 90 degrees. So that purple thing right there is telling you that that is 90 degrees. Well, it also shows me two angles. I have angle 1 and I have angle 2. Well, it also shows me that angle 1 plus angle 2 would equal that 90. So these two angles would be considered complementary. That's what that's showing us right there. Next one. Okay. Given the measure of an angle that is complementary to this. So I want to find an angle that would be complementary to this. Well, we can have that angle be x, whatever, x degrees. If this is an angle and I add it to the one they gave me, 60, if they have to be complementary, it means they have to equal 90 degrees. So what would this have to be to make this a true statement? Pretty simple, right? You probably already know that it's 30. If you didn't, well, again, they're adding 60, so I subtract 60. So I just prove it that x would have to be equal to 30. So I know if I drew another angle over here and said, hey, this is 30 degrees, this one and this one would be complementary because they both add up to 90 degrees. What is the sum of the angle measures of two complementary angles? Okay, this is just asking for when you have two angles that are complementary, they have to add up to how much? We'd have to put 90, just 90 degrees. You have to know that complementary means 90. We'll wait with that one. And the check, which we are going to do in a little bit. 7. Okay, this one, a little multiple choice. It says choose the angle that is complementary to the given angle. Well, they gave us 75 degrees, so we have to know 75 plus what number is equal to 90. So if you look over there, what's the only one that would work? Yeah, 15. This has to be 15 because 75 plus 15 is equal to 90. So that means B is the right answer. Short little video here. To get there, obviously, is what we've been doing the last couple chapters. We subtract 36, subtract 36. So then I have 9x is equal to, if you need to do the math there comes an 8, there's a 10, I get a 4, I get a 5. So if 9x equals 54, when they multiply, we divide. So x is equal to 6. Now, what does that mean? Well, I know this is 36 degrees, but I don't know this. Well, if I plug that in, I know that 9 times 6 is 9x, means 9 times 6. 9 times 6 is 54. That means this has to be equal to 54 degrees. And I'm getting close on my 15-minute time limit for letting them record, so I might stop this one and start a new one. But these two are showing me this little purple thing right here, which means that's 90 degrees. So it's telling me that these two have to add up to 90. So I'll set that up. 2x plus 28 is equal to 90. Now, no different what we've been doing the last couple chapters. First step, add or subtract first. So I subtract, I subtract. By doing it, this is going to be gone. I still have my 2x on this side. Here, I have to do the math. That becomes an 8. There's a 10. I end up getting a 2. I get a 6. Well, if this gives me right there, that, make it better, 6. If I want to get x by itself, they're multiplying, we divide. So x would be equal to 31. Now, that doesn't tell me this degree, though. If they want the value of x, I'm done. If they ask for this angle, I'd have to put that 31 in for x. But they want the value of x, which means the value of x is 31. So we're done with that one. I'll stop recording.